Hey everyone, welcome back to K-Korner, the channel where we dive into the wild world of entitled people and their unbelievable stories. Hope you enjoy it. And without further ado, let's go. Obligatory statement that this did not happen to me, but to a friend of mine. Last year, 2023, my friend, let's call him Chris, not his real name, was having an extremely difficult year. We were all concerned about how much of 2024 we'd be able to enjoy his company. So his roommate decided to go to the local shelter and get him a dog for Christmas to cheer him up. It was a female Bernese mountain dog that my friend named Kloof, after a dog in a book series he was fond of. This is not the dog in question, but to say it cheered him up is an understatement. However, it soon became clear that Kloof was having difficulty adjusting. Chris theorized it was because Kloof was part of a pack of strays that was picked up by the shelter on the previous Halloween and was missing her companions. Because Chris loved dogs deeply and had the means, he decided to adopt the other 3 dogs she was picked up with. They were a female golden retriever mix he named Niffler, a male German shepherd mix he named Luther, and a male black Labrador mix named Spooky. This seemed to help Kloof adjust, and all the dogs quickly seemed happy with their new lot in life. The problem lies with Spooky. Chris came up with the name Spooky because it was a black dog and was taken in by the shelter on Halloween. He just thought it was a cute name. Obviously, with Chris being the primary caregiver of 4 rather large dogs, with some help from his roommate, it was impractical to take all of them on a walk at the same time. So he walked 2 of them, brought them home, then took the other 2. One day, about a month ago, he had taken Kloof and Luther on a walk, and then took Niffler and Spooky. While he was out with Niffler and Spooky, he encountered an African-American woman who was walking her dog. Naturally, as dog owners do, the 2 started gushing over their dogs, and of course the dogs' names came up. When Chris mentioned that the black Labrador's name was Spooky, he noticed the woman become stiff. She immediately went on the offensive and asked if he was being funny. Chris, confused, said yes. Then she immediately tore into him, saying how inappropriate it was to name a black dog Spook. Note she said Spook, not Spooky. Of course Chris, at the time, had no clue what she was talking about, and said the dog was found on Halloween, so he thought Spooky was a cute name. She wasn't having it. She said that just because the dog was black, it was no excuse to use spook or any other derogatory term. To say Chris was upset is an understatement. He just shouted at the top of his lungs. Those words are for a race, not a dog breed. He was named because of a holiday, not his color, you silly person. If you think black people are no better than a dog, that's on you, not me. Then he walked off. I'm not saying Chris is right or wrong for how he responded, but I think wow is definitely an appropriate response for the interaction. The city I live in has extremely inflated vehicle values compared to the surrounding areas. If you buy the same car from a neighboring state, you can often save $3 to $4K without really trying. When I buy a new vehicle, which happens every 3 to 4 years, I always look in the surrounding states to compare pricing. This story happened about 5 years ago, and the malicious compliance is still ongoing to this day. I was shopping for a new car, brand new, and found one that matched my specs about 12 hours away in a neighboring state. It was priced about $5,000 below comps. After looking up flights, there was a one-way direct flight that took me to their local airport for around $175. Plus the gas to drive back. I was looking at a total of maybe $275 to save $5,000. Absolutely worth it in this situation. I reached out to the dealership, negotiated a bit, and agreed on a price. I let them know that I would be flying in to pick up the car, and offered to pay in full in advance of the flight. They told me that all they needed was a $1,000 deposit, and that the car was considered mine. We signed a contract and I paid the deposit, and then I booked the flight for 3 days from then. First sign of things gone awry. When I showed up at the airport, the dealership was supposed to pick me up. This had been arranged in advance. A quick phone call later, and I grabbed an Uber to take me the 20 miles to the dealership with the promise of them covering that cost. No big deal either way. Second sign of things gone awry. When I showed up at the dealership, the salesman I had been speaking with asked me if I wanted to walk the lot with him to look at a few cars. Yes, cars. Plural. Questioning what he meant by that, we walked into the lot to see these cars that he was talking about. Were these some special type of gold inlaid, full self-driving, full self-flying, amaze mobiles? No, they were not. When I point-blank asked to see the car that I was buying, the one with VIN XYZ listed in this signed contract with a deposit on it, I was told it was no longer available. The salesman offered to show me similar cars, which would have been fine were we able to come to similar terms on pricing, but all of these cars outrageously priced, think $2,000 over MSRP instead of $5,000 under MSRP. Important note for later, there was never a mention or any paperwork, signage, etc., of any incentives for giving 5-star reviews. Fast forward 2 to 3 hours. I am now convinced this dealership never had this specific car on the lot, and that this was 100% a bait and switch gone wrong. The dealership was unwilling to sell me a similar vehicle at a similar price to our negotiated one. We were over $5,000 apart, and were unwilling to pay the flight costs for this bait and switch scenario. A heated discussion ensued between myself and the GM, where he told me to go ahead and leave a bad review, but that I wasn't getting any free money from him. I took an Uber to a nearby hotel and booked a flight back home for the next day. Total cost, around $750. Q malicious compliance. This dealership had an average Google rating of right around 4.5 stars and around 400 total reviews. Pretty solid for a dealership. That night, while I was sitting in the hotel room, I had some time to burn. I spent a couple of hours creating new email accounts just so that I could leave multiple reviews for this dealership. All said and done, I had left around 21 star reviews over the course of that night, and then sort of stopped caring about the reviews. At this point, my focus shifted to recovering my lost travel expenses. A few days after getting back, I sent the dealership a demand letter for $750, which they promptly ignored. Since we had done the original contract with the deposit in both states, I was allowed to file a small claims suit in my state, which I did. The dealership never showed up to court, and I received a default judgment for $750. I did collect that, by the way. It took a few certified letters, a few phone calls, and about a year, but I did get a check for $750. As you can imagine, I was still not a happy camper. What they had done was wrong on so many levels. All of my friends knew the story of how I was bait and switched, and the fact that I flew to the dealership on a one-way ticket only made it that much worse. They had all left a bad review or two, but nothing more than a normal mad customer. Q malicious compliance, long-term. I don't know how it started, or how it ended up lasting as long as it has, but at some point I had some time on my hands and left a bad review for this dealership. Just one. Not two, not three. One. In doing so, I noticed that all of the reviews I had left right after leaving the dealership were gone. Probably taken down for being fake, or because I had left so many at the same time and the dealership reported them. I wanted to make sure this dealership wouldn't do this to someone else. So the next day, I checked to make sure that one bad review I had just left was still there. It was, and since I was thinking about it, I went ahead and created another account and left another 1-star review. Fast forward 2 to 3 years. It has now become a habit. Every time I have a few minutes to spare, I create a new account and leave a 1-star review for this dealership. Their current rating, 1.9 stars, with nearly 3.5K total reviews. I am personally responsible for at least half of those reviews. When you open the dealer's website, one of the large banners that flashes across the screen advertises $50 for a 5-star review. Something about showing the review to your salesman to get a $50 Visa gift card. It has been this way since about a year after this bait and switch occurred, right around the time the 1-star reviews began to accumulate. Assuming I am responsible for half of their reviews, and the fact that the dealership only has 3.5K total reviews, they have paid $50 per review for at least 1,000 reviews, likely more than that. meaning they have implemented a policy to pay for reviews, have spent $50,000 doing so, and have still seen their average rating drop consistently since telling me to go ahead and leave a bad review. Edited to add, yes, I got my $1,000 deposit back. I paid with a CC and it was refunded without issue. I couldn't sue for time spent or force the contract to be honored because I sued in small claims court. Time spent not allowable and contract too high of a value for small claims. And yes, the case was 100% winnable if I were to have sued to force the contract to be honored. But legal fees, I would have needed to hire an attorney, and the additional time spent meant this was just not worth pursuing. And finally, no, I will not provide the name of the dealership. I know that some companies sue people who leave reviews. I am not willing to risk that, so will continue to remain anonymous and allow the dealership to do the same. I did report their review practice along with screenshots showing that they are offering payment for 5-star reviews to Google, etc. If anything happens, I'll update this post, though I would expect that may take months, years. So I don't know if this is the right subreddit, but it seemed like it fit here the most. Yesterday, I decided to take a walk to the shops. I love to walk even though it's about 10 minutes away. On my way there, I noticed that a giant part of the road had been dug up. The asphalt chunks were on the walkway, clearly visible to anyone, and the workers had placed a caution marker in the middle of the road. My guess is that they had placed some pipes under the road, given that it was about 2 meters wide and spanned the entire 2-lane road. It was a pretty deep hole, though not deep enough to harm a car if it drove through it slowly. This is in the suburbs, so there were only a few cars taking their time to get over the ditch. I hadn't paid it any mind and continued my walk to the store. On my way back, I noticed there were a few more cars backed up behind the ditch, moving very slowly. One guy was leaning on his horn, waving his arms sporadically, and was clearly upset. This guy was also in one of those super low-to-the-ground cars. Think rich person in the middle of a midlife crisis kind of cars. I needed to get to the other side of the road, so I waited until the line had come to a brief full stop. I did a quick check to see if there were any oncoming cars and ran to the other side of the street. Remember, this is the suburbs, there is no crossing, and it's completely legal in my area to just cross the street. I made the mistake of doing this right in front of Mr. Impatient. He honked his horn even more and yelled something out of his window. I just ignored him and kept walking. A few seconds later, and right by the ditch, Mr. Impatient comes flying past me on the wrong side of the street and yells at me, "And forget you too," while hanging out of his window. He hadn't even finished his yell when he drove smack into that ditch. It was a super loud bang, and he skidded to a halt. His entire front bumper was completely destroyed, and who knows what other unseen damage there was. I just raised an eyebrow and noticed a lady in a sport utility vehicle laughing hysterically. I kept my cool and just continued my walk. Once I was around the block, I had to sit down to laugh. Karma, don't mess with her. Enjoying the stories yet? If you do, please subscribe, like, and comment. Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. I have an incredible story to share with you that happened last Sunday, and I've been contemplating whether to post it or not. But before I dive into the details, let me provide a bit of backstory. I'm a 14-year-old boy with ADHD, which unfortunately causes me to have a severe stutter. My friend, also 14, has autism and usually wears noise-canceling headphones to help him cope with sensory overload. Due to these challenges, we often communicate using British Sign Language, BSL. It's a great way for us to connect since I don't stutter when signing, and he can enjoy the peace of silence. Additionally, I've found solace in physical activity, such as going to the gym and going for runs, which helps clear my mind. As a result, I've become quite muscular. Now that we have that out of the way, let's jump into the story. My friend and I were leisurely strolling along one of our usual paths, blessed with breathtaking views and minimal car traffic. As the British heat was sweltering, we decided to take a break at a pub, or bar, for our friends across the pond, halfway through our walk, hoping to cool down with a refreshing lemonade or shandy. depending on our luck. Throughout our time at the pub, we communicated solely through sign language, enjoying each other's company. Once we settled into our seats, the last ones available in the covered outdoor area, a woman whom all refer to as Karen approached us, accompanied by a young child. In a haughty and boisterous voice she proclaimed, Boys, I believe those seats are reserved for me. You see, I happen to know the pub owner, so you'd better move. Besides, you weren't even speaking, so just take your drinks to go. Now, ladies and gentlemen, here's the twist. We also happen to know the owner, since he's the father of my friend who was with me at the time. With a modicum of composure, I managed to form a coherent sentence and responded, we were talking, just in sign language. Karen, seemingly disregarding her unruly child who was throwing a tantrum, retorted, Oh, so you're pretending to have a disability? What's wrong with your generation? Feeling nervous, I stuttered, we're not pretending. We simply prefer to communicate this way. At this point, Karen lost her composure completely. She began hurling a torrent of insults at us, demanding that I speak up and rudely insisting we effing move. In her fit of rage, she even attempted to physically grab me and my friend, intending to toss us off the bench. This triggered a meltdown in my friend, his autism making it difficult for him to handle such overwhelming situations. Thankfully, his father, who had noticed something was amiss, rushed outside to intervene. Yet the tirade from Karen continued, punctuated by her jabbing a finger into her chest after every word. At this juncture I had reached my limit, and I responded forcefully, matching her intensity. As Karen stumbled backward from my retort, she somehow managed to maintain her balance, despite her ample physique. However, in the process, she accidentally stepped on her child's finger as he lay on the ground, crying and wailing. This only exacerbated his distress. And finally, Karen's gaze shifted to the true hero of our story. My friend's dad, who was embracing and comforting his son, unaware of the connection between the person he was consoling and the woman who had assaulted us moments ago. In her oblivious state, Karen screeched, "Manager, this person just assaulted me." At that moment, my friend's dad turned a shade of red that rivaled a strawberry. I couldn't tell them apart even if I squinted without my glasses. He proceeded to unleash a torrent of expletives at this woman, using a vocabulary even I was unfamiliar with. Since Karen remained undeterred, he bellowed, "I will call the police if you don't leave this instant." Finally, spurred into action, the woman hastily dragged her wailing child off the ground and scurried away like the vermin she was. Left in the aftermath was an autistic child in the midst of a meltdown. Myself feeling rather irritated, a fresh crack in the recently installed decking caused by Karen's stumble, and dents on the floor where the child had thrown his tantrum, stomping his feet. Additionally, we had one furious pub owner. Nevertheless, the drinks were a welcome reprieve, considerably stronger than a shandy as my friend's dad put it. Unfortunately, we had to cut our walk short, since my friend was still in a distressed state. Years ago, I was the proud owner of a majestic 1983 Mercedes 300 SD, boasting an astounding mileage of over 860,000 miles. I acquired the car from my father for a symbolic price of $1, although I amusingly paid him in 99 pennies, a couple of years after he had purchased it from his uncle. This magnificent vehicle provided me with a thrilling driving experience. However, as often happens with aging turbo diesels, the turbo eventually malfunctioned. The car still ran decently, but it became noticeably sluggish when tackling uphill drives. Living in the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains exacerbated this issue. The repair cost was estimated at a hefty $800, which meant I needed approximately 6 weeks to save up for the repairs. I thought it would be no trouble. I simply decided to park it on the condo parking pad, a mere 50 yards away from my unit, until I had the funds to fix it. One fateful day, I returned home to discover my car was missing. Although I wasn't devastated, I felt a profound sense of frustration. I promptly contacted the police, and an amiable officer arrived to take a report regarding the stolen vehicle. A week or so elapsed, and I received an unexpected phone call. Much to my disappointment, it turned out that my car hadn't been stolen after all. It had been towed. I made my way to the tow yard and confronted the person in charge, demanding an explanation for this bewildering turn of events. He informed me that a homeowners association, WA, member named Diane had reported the vehicle as improperly parked, citing the association's rules and policies as the reason for the tow. Consequently, I had to pay $550, which encompassed the cost of over a week's storage and the hookup fee, to retrieve my car. Dishearteningly, during the towing process, the winch cable had left an unsightly dent on my car's front bumper due to its considerable length and weight. Upon returning home, I contacted my landlord to inquire about the covenants, conditions, and restrictions, CC&Rs. She promptly provided me with a copy, and to my surprise, I discovered no mention of restrictions regarding the length of parking. The regulations solely pertained to abandoned vehicles, whereas my car was fully operational, possessed a valid license plate, and had all 4 tires properly inflated. It was blatantly evident that my car did not meet the criteria for being classified as abandoned. Determined to address this unjust situation, I began conducting extensive research. Armed with the CC&Rs, I knew I had a solid foundation to support my case. Furthermore, I discovered that Georgia law stipulated parking enforcement signs must be 4 feet above the ground, whereas the signs in my neighborhood were positioned at a height of only 3 feet. I took note of each board member's name and the property management company responsible for overseeing the WA. Curiously, Diane's name did not appear on the list of board members. This revelation piqued my interest, and so I embarked on a legal battle. I sued everyone involved. I filed lawsuits against the tow truck driver and the towing company, holding them responsible for the damage inflicted on my vehicle. I individually sued each member of the WA board for their mishandling of the towing procedure. I included my landlord in the lawsuit as a precautionary measure in case she was somehow implicated. Additionally, I sued the property management company since they were directly employed by the WA. I proceeded to issue a subpoena to obtain all relevant records pertaining to the towing of my car from the tow company. Fortunately, they had recorded their phone calls, and I possessed a recording of the conversation. I also subpoenaed the WA board minutes from the past decade, which revealed no mention of Diane serving as a board member. Finally, I took legal action against Diane herself, seeking compensation for the expenses incurred in retrieving my vehicle. To my advantage, Georgia state law allowed for treble damages when a defendant acted with willful misconduct or fraud. Considering the approximately 6 hours I invested in researching my case, I decided to compensate myself at a rate of $100 per hour, a figure I deemed fair, considering that legal professionals would typically charge double that amount. Consequently, I amended my complaint to request treble damages against Diane. Court day arrived, and as expected, the judge dismissed the case against my landlord, recognizing that she played no role in the incident. Similarly, the case against the tow truck driver was dismissed since he acted as an agent of the towing company already mentioned. The judge also dismissed the case against each board member, acknowledging their lack of involvement. While I had anticipated these dismissals, it was a strategic move to include all relevant parties in the lawsuit to ensure no potential loophole could be exploited. Now it was my moment to present my case, and I was fully prepared. I presented evidence of the state code that regulates signage, demonstrating that the signage in question did not comply with the applicable laws. This formed the basis of my case against the property management company. The judge asked the company to respond, and they admitted their fault. Sensing an opportunity, I moved for a directed verdict against the property manager, seeking compensation for the tow hookup fee. The judge awarded me $75 for the tow hookup fee and also ordered the property management company to reimburse my $50 court filing fee. Next, I presented evidence of the damage to my bumper and provided estimates from a Mercedes dealership to repair it. The towing company accepted responsibility, acknowledging their mistake. Consequently, the judge awarded me $1,200 as compensation for the damage caused. Moving on to my case against Diane, I called upon the testimony of the tow yard employee, who confirmed that I indeed drove my car home on that fateful day. I presented the recorded phone call made by Diane to have my car towed, and the employee testified to its authenticity. Bewildered, Diane remained clueless and failed to cross-examine the witness. To further solidify my case, I summoned the property manager, who was still present in the courtroom, to testify that Diane is not and has never been a board member, with the submission of evidence showcasing my current registration, proving the validity of the car's tag, and a picture of my vehicle in the courthouse parking lot. Taken on that day, I established a compelling argument. In my closing statement, I emphasized that Diane's actions constituted willful misconduct by requesting the towing of my car, despite the absence of any violations of the CC&Rs. Furthermore, I asserted that she engaged in fraudulent behavior by falsely claiming authority as a board member to authorize the towing. Based on her willful misconduct and fraud, I argued that I was entitled to treble damages. The judge ruled in my favor, awarding me $1,075 from Diane. This included $475 to cover the storage costs paid to the tow yard, and an additional $600 for the effort I put into the case. Moreover, the judge applied treble damages against Diane, resulting in a total owed amount of $3,225. However, despite the court's ruling, 30 days passed, and Diane failed to fulfill her payment obligation. As a result, I filed a notice with the court. Another 30 days elapsed, and still no sign of payment. Determined to collect my rightful compensation, I visited the marshal's office armed with the judgment. They advised me to locate her bank accounts and return with the relevant information. After investing $150 in hiring a private investigator, we successfully located her bank account. Returning to the marshal's office, we proceeded to Bank of America, where her checking and savings accounts were seized, although there remained a shortfall of around $1,500. A couple of months later, I discovered that she had closed her account at Bank of America. Unwilling to give up, I enlisted the assistance of the private investigator once more, and we traced a new account at SunTrust. With this information in hand, I visited the bank and successfully retrieved $1,250. Out of spite, I chose to leave a remaining $250 outstanding on the judgment. Using the $250 judgment against Diane, I filed a lien against her home, intending to cause her inconvenience whenever she attempts to refinance or sell the property. Meanwhile, I did manage to use the compensation received to repair my car, and it runs splendidly thereafter. About 4 years ago, my township enacted a new ordinance that forbids new freestanding flagpoles. This was intended to curb the prevalence of political flag wars. However, it didn't work, as most people involved already had flagpoles, sometimes multiple, or just mounted them on their trucks. I had a flagpole that about 3 years ago while on vacation was presumably knocked over by a drunk driver who was never caught. I thought since my original pole was grandfathered in, confirmed at the onset of the ordinance, a new pole wouldn't be a problem. I was quickly sent a warning and lost my appeal, having to remove the new pole. This saddened me, so I went looking through town ordinances, and, lo and behold, there's no limit to how many single flags can be mounted on your buildings via poles. Hurrah! I now have 3 flagpoles on my garage, from left to right, an American flag, a prisoner of war missing in action remembrance flag, and a third flag that gets rotated based on what I find humorous or speaks to me, usually non-political unless it's my "you're both idiots" flag. Currently, it is a Jolly Roger. Yes, I am a pirate. 200 years too late. This setup is specific. The American flag is the largest, and I don't want it smacking the house, With the way the house is set up, no matter if you come from the left or right, you'll first see the American flag, then the prisoner of war flag, followed by my last one. All three flags were just replaced as of the first week of April. Now I've had my share of headbutting with the homeowners association down the street. I'm not part of them. Sometime in the past few years they decided that houses in the homeowners association are only allowed one American flag and one military flag on the condition that you served in that branch. Not my circus. They can dictate that if they want. Oddly enough, I have talked to the current head of the homeowners association, and they have no issue with my flags. The color I painted my shed, however, is another story. And now onto the story. Loose dogs. I woke up this weekend to find two strange dogs playing in my yard. They quickly decided I was a friend and followed my commands once they realized I had treats. Awesome sauce. I secured the dogs, making one a quick collar because I live on a busy street and it's obvious they are someone's pets. Before I got the chance to try to call the number on one dog's tag, two older teenage girls ran up looking for them. They didn't have leashes, shaking my head, so I loaned them a couple of old leashes and found out that they had recently moved into the homeowners association. They promised to return my leashes and makeshift collar later that day. No big deal, worst case, I'm out something I really wasn't using anyway, and I've done my good deed for the day. A little bit later I was working in my garage tending to some seedlings I was trying to grow, and I heard voices outside. Me, girls who picked up the dogs, ornery man, girl one. It was definitely this house. I remember the flags. I hit the remote to fully open the door. Ornery man, I can't quite tell what he says, but I hear flags a few times. Girl 2, he's nice grandpa. Me, hey, welcome back, girl 1. Sorry again they got loose, thank you for your help. She hands me back my leashes. Me, no worries, it happens. I'm sure they'll get used to the area soon, but try to keep an eye on them. There are predators around. Girls, we'll try, thank you. Ornery man, what's with the flags? He looks at the pirate flag. We're not at sea. Me, I used to have a flagpole, but it got knocked down. I thought the house looked odd with only two, so I put up a third for balance and whimsy. Ornery man, well, the homeowners association only allows two at maximum. Me, didn't know they had that limit. I did, just didn't care. Ornery man, well, you should. Me, I'm not part of the homeowners association, so if they want a maximum of two, it really doesn't affect me. Ornery man, well, you should follow their rules, it'll make for a better neighborhood. At this point, the girls try to get him to change the subject or leave. I've had plenty of issues with them trying to push their rules on me. I'd rather they just stay over there with their rules. The girls look anxious and say goodbye, trying to convince Grandpa to go with them, but he stays behind. Ornery man, but they bring up your property values. You should want to bring up theirs. He looks around, for example, by painting your house. Me, holding up my dominant hand, currently wrapped and recovering from surgery. It's too cold right now to paint, and I'm recovering from surgery, but it will get done this summer. Ornery man, well, at least you'll take down the flags when you paint. They're an eyesore. Me, I like them, and as soon as the paint's dry, they'll go right back up. Ornery man, but you should comply with the homeowners association rules. Me, I purposely did not buy a house in a homeowners association, and that homeowners association has given me enough headaches over the years. If the homeowners association wants them down, they can try to take me to court again. Ornery man, see, just more reason you should do what the homeowners association rulebook says. You won't lose in court. Me laughing, I've had enough of this conversation. Please have a good rest of your day. I hit the remote to close the door. Ornery man pounds on the garage door, and I threaten to call the police. After a few moments I hear him muttering some words like stupid, flags, and why, along with some odd noises. I go out the front door to see him literally, hanging by my American flag. Me, what in the world are you doing, ornery man? I'm taking down these eyesores. Me, get off my property now. At this point, he loses his grip on the flag, causing him to land on my cement driveway. Ornery man, I'm going to sue you. I could have gotten hurt. Me, I would have helped you up, but since you've mentioned suing me, that won't be happening. Ornery man takes another yank on the flag and ends up falling into the grass this time. Give me your insurance information or I'll sue you. Me. Look, you are not going anywhere with that flag and pole. As for my insurance and suing me, go ask your beloved homeowners association how that ended for them. A car pulls up with another man and the girls. Me. Looks like your ride is here. Get off my property. Man, hey, don't talk to my dad like that. Me. Well, he doesn't seem to respond to polite requests. Man. Oh my God, he's bleeding. Me. Yep, and I would have helped him if he didn't threaten to sue me. Man. He what? Me. Yep, he tried to tear down my flags, fell off the flag and threatened to sue me. Man turns red. What? You probably pushed him. Me. Never touched him, pointing at the camera. It's all been recorded if you want to see for yourself. Man turns to his dad. What the heck are you getting us into now? Get in the car, Dad. Ornery man takes another try, this time at the missing in action flag, and I catch him before he runs headlong into my house. Me. Seriously, dude, ornery man, get your hands off me. This is assault. I was going to try to ensure he was steady, but he decided to try to fight me, so I just let go. He ends up falling over onto my work truck's bumper. Ornery man, I'm going to sue you and your company for this. I just laugh at this. The man picks up his dad and shoves him into the car. As they drive away, ornery man rolls down the window and shouts, "Your flags are an eyesore." Later that day, the doorbell rings. It's the girls with their dogs. I brace for everything and anything, not knowing what was going to be said. I give my dog a futile settle command, futile due to 2 dogs in her yard. Before stepping outside, it turns out Grandpa was supposed to give me some money for saving their dogs. They aren't really sure what's up with his issue with the flags, but they admit they think he may be having some dementia issues. I do ask if he's okay, and they said he's fine and only received some minor scrapes and bruises. Honestly, I am glad he's only got minor injuries. They insist I take the money, and I finally negotiate to only taking half. I joke that if they say I took it all, and it ever gets brought up, I'd play dumb, which they laugh and agree to. As they get ready to leave, they tell me that they like my flags, especially the pirate one. Note, yes, this was all recorded. However, there's just way too much identifying information. Work logos, tattoos, names on clothing, geolocation. It would just be a blurry mess to obscure it all. And I do not want to accidentally reveal someone's identity or my own, so I will not be sharing it. Thanks for joining us. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more captivating stories. Share your own experiences and opinions in the comments below, and let's keep the conversation going. Until next time, stay tuned for more epic tales.